Now then, this story on the Times, net zero risk blackouts. It's based on an unnamed whistleblower who claims the National Energy System Operator, NESO, is flying blind because back in the old days it knew roughly how much energy oil and gas was producing, but because of the batteries used in renewables, NESO doesn't have a clear idea of how much electricity is being produced, and thus could potentially leave us exposed to blackouts. I have to say, I've read the story a couple of times, and it strikes me the problem isn't with net zero. The problem seems to be with NESO. But let's see what Donncha McCarthy has to say, Director of the Climate Media Coalition. It's been a while, Donncha. Good morning.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So what do you make of this Times story then? Net zero risks blackouts and the concerns of NESO?
Well, to be frank with you, I've at the Climate Media Coalition been reading stories like this for 15 years. Murdoch has been raising this sort of blackout scare story for literally 15 years. Solar's going to black us out, wind farm's going to black us out. He's waging a campaign in Britain, America and Australia against us tackling the climate crisis that's engulfing us. Look at it. Look outside our windows today. We've had a drought burning Britain, and what does every single day these papers are pumping out attacks on protecting our future generations. And there's something really exciting happened this week, Matthew. I know the last time we spoke about this issue, but we're so fed up of this. We carried out an opinion poll last week on whether the British public wants to take back control of our media from the foreign billionaires who dominate us. And the extraordinary thing is by 4-1. No matter whether you remain or leave, whether you're Labour or Reform voters, they all want our sovereignty back. It's time to end this rubbish.
I think that's a really interesting... that might even be worth us discussing on LBC tomorrow. I think that's a really interesting point, Donncha. Let me just ask you, if you may, just to pick the holes in the story, because as I said, it seems to me it's less about the problems of net zero and seems to my eyes to be more about the failings of NESO. It needs to get with the times.
Well, I think actually the real failure over the last 10 years, Matthew, hasn't been NESO, it's actually been the national grid. We privatised the national grid under Thatcher, and what that has done, it has invested, they have taken around £29 billion over the last 10 years in profit. Instead of building the grid to facilitate the new green projects, there are billions of projects around Britain waiting to go onto the grid that would make our energy cheaper, cleaner and greener, and they haven't been able to go on because the national grid, which is owned by the Middle East and American billionaires, hasn't invested the money needed. It's a scandal as big as the water industry, but the media again is ignoring it.
I'll have to hold my hand up there, Donncha, because I didn't know that the national grid had generated that much in profit, and I was just listening. It's 29 billion, you said?
Over 10 years. Last year it was £5 billion alone. £5 billion of your money and our money from our bills went into the pockets of the profiteers of the national grid and the other energy companies. The other energy companies aren't making so much profit. It's the national grid where the real rip-off is going off. I think it was Unison calculated last year, of our £1,800 that we spend on energy bills, over 500 goes on the profits for the privatised company. Another £100 goes on constraint payments. Those constraint payments are paying for the failure of the grid to build the grid, because we're paying these cheap energy companies to turn off the wind turbines because the grid can't cope with them. It's nuts.
Is Andy Burnham across all this, do you think? Do you have any hope of change?
Well, to be frank with you, what we've been calling for quite a number of years is actually for us to reduce what we call the Tory brown levies on our electricity bills. They keep going on about the green levies, but it's the brown levies that are hammering us.
I only woke up to that fact myself, Donncha, earlier this year when I discovered that the amount of taxpayer subsidies and breaks that the big fossil fuel giants get is more than double the tax breaks given to green energy. And yet we, as you just said, we only talk about the tax breaks given to green energy.
Yeah, and if you actually look at I did an article for Byline Times breaking down the levies on our bills. It absolutely gobsmacked me what's happening. It's the the brown levies are what and actually what we could do. I mean, I think I'm in favour of competition and free markets when you can have real competition. So for energy companies, yes, you can have competition, but for the grid, you can't. And so what that is a privatised licence to print money at our expense. And Andy Burnham is talking about taking some of the public services back into public ownership, and that's the key one he needs to do.
Well, I have to say, Donica, I'm going to read up about this when I leave the studio. But two, you have absolutely done my noggin in with that. I am gobsmacked that a non-competitive privatised grid took 29 billion out over the last 10 years. I know the water statistics off the back of my hand. I didn't know that, and I'm genuinely gobsmacked. Donica, thank you. Donica McCarthy there from the Climate Media Coalition. We've got a few minutes left. Let's have a quick word with Alf in Horham in West Sussex.